afternoon, and welcome to Seed Speaks. This is a video series brought to you by Seed World Group. My name is Rebecca Carmeli Peslak, and I am the digital media producer for Seed World Group. Today, we are going to be diving into the politics of Bill C-18. The new Bill C-18 has been passed by the Government of Canada. While it won't come into effect until later this year, it is already making waves. This bill will impact how Canadians are able to access news online, specifically on social media, and will require tech companies, including Meta and Google, to compensate media organizations in order to display Canadian news on their platforms. Today, Ashley Robinson, editor of the Alberta Seed Guide, will be joining me to discuss more about the politics and details of Bill C-18, including the impacts it could have internationally. To start off this conversation, I'm going to let Ashley, who is a Canada native, fill us in on what this bill is all about. Take it away, Ash.
Yeah, thank you, Becca, for asking me to come on as your colleague to sit around and talk about this, because this is something that we've been discussing a lot internally. For anyone that is aware of our company and everything, yes, our biggest property is Seed World, which is an American publication, but we're based here in Canada. So that we have quite a few Canadian publications. So this is a really big thing that's been impacting us, and we've had to discuss a lot, and we're still trying to figure out how it's going to impact us. But as you mentioned there, Becca, Bill C-18 was passed by the Canadian Parliament earlier this year, June 23rd, and it has 6 months until it actually goes into effect. So it'll come into effect actually on December 23rd. But we were already seeing some impacts from it. And so maybe I'll just first go a bit back and talk about where this bill came from. So of course, we know the news industry is struggling. It has been struggling as we switch to the digital, and for years, news in newspapers and then on TV too, we got these really nice expensive ads. Like it was expensive to go and print an ad in a magazine or the newspaper, or to go and get a TV ad. Like that's really expensive. The production value behind them, you had to hire graphic designers, you had to hire videographers. Like there's just so much. It was expensive to do ads. But then we became into this digital world, and things got a lot cheaper. It was way cheaper to produce ads, and also we had to readjust where we're paying or what we're charging. And now when we're looking at it, they're not actually as expensive as they used to be. So we're not getting as much advertising dollars as we used to. So the government has been concerned in Canada and in other places around the world about how we make sure that we still have a free and independent press, and make sure that they're getting money to be able to produce this news that is very important to citizens of different countries around the world. And in Canada, one of the ways they decided to go about this was they looked at the ways that people are consuming news now. And it's through social media, it's through the web. You're going onto Google, you're searching up news stories, and you're going onto Facebook, you're sharing stories, you're clicking on links. And a lot of these, when they looked at it, they were like, well, actually, if you're looking at what these search engines or these social media companies are, they're being able to use our content. Like they're building their platforms off of other people's content. So that's where the Canadian government had an idea to look into and do this bill. And it was actually based off of something that happened a few years ago in Australia, which we're going to talk about in a bit. But so the Canadian government goes and does this bill, and right away they're targeting specifically two companies: Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, and then Google. They're not targeting other companies like LinkedIn or Twitter. Which is now commonly referred to as X. They're not targeting those social media companies or TikTok or any other search engines. They're just targeting these two companies. And the companies aren't really happy to see it happening, because they don't want to have to pay money for stuff that they've been getting for free for years. And it's not just about the fact that it's to Canada. Canada is really taking a world leader role in this. And a lot of different countries around the world, from the United States to the United Kingdom, the European Union, are all sitting around watching to see what happens here, because they want to possibly do their own bills. They want to do similar, they want to set up similar laws in their own countries, but nobody wants to do it until they find out what happens with Canada. So right now we kind of have the Canadian government and Meta and Google facing off to see who steps down first. It's a game of chicken. And We are seeing Meta and Google firing back a lot at it. And we've actually already seen them, even though it's not into effect, they're already putting it in place themselves because they've decided they don't want to pay. So Facebook at the start of August started blocking Canadian news links and pages. I know some of you probably saw the statement that we put out on our publications because we wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of what's going on and how to find our news. And yeah, so Canadians right now, if I go onto my Facebook page here in Canada, I can't see any news. I can't go and check out the Globe and Mail. I can't go and check out the New York Times, even though they're not a Canadian news publication. I'm viewing the news in Canada, so New York Times is actually supposedly get money from this bill. So I just can't view any news on my Facebook page anymore. And while Google hasn't put any blocks in place, they've ran kind of rolling test blocks where they blocked different publications and stuff from searching. There were some Canadian press reporters, which is our national newswire service, that noticed they weren't getting as many hits anymore on their stories, and their name wasn't showing as many hits. So they reached out to Google and found out that Google had been already starting to block some different Canadian news publications as a test. So it's kind of a mess right now, and we really don't know what's happening.
Totally. This bill is going to have very heavy impacts on social media, some of which, like Ashley mentioned, that we are already seen. On an account that Ashley and I are pretty heavily involved with, we have already seen our own news links being blocked due to this bill, which means that, like Ashley mentioned, readers in Canada are not able to view the news or the link from the platform. Readers will have to visit the news sites directly to view the news that is being shared. This includes any and all newses, including our agricultural and seed sector news. News being blocked further inhibits readers from getting news on social media and prevents news organizations from being able to share it.
Yeah,
Now,
and to add to that, like I said, Google also has run rolling blocks, and as of December 23rd, if nothing changes, they will be blocking all news links. And well, you may be thinking, as a seed company, why does that impact me? Why should I care? One, you won't be able to, yeah, you won't be able to search up and find that germination story if you're in Canada, or that seed world story that you looked. You'd have to go directly to our site. But I think more important when we're looking at it is when we talk about, as an agriculture industry, trying to reach the general public, one of the ways we do that through is Google. We do that by being able to have, if somebody wants to read a story on GMOs and understand them, we don't want just some random maybe anti-GMO information that doesn't give the side of why GMOs are important, or any other kind of technology that we're looking at. We don't want that to only be the thing that comes up. Or I know it may be fun to be, if you're at BASF, that all your publications and all your information will come up. But it's really important to be able to give readers and that general public the context around things. And that's where news comes in and is important. We're able to go and talk to multiple different people, get those different sides, and give that balanced and factual information. And I know for us, like as Becca said, like like me and her both work on building our social media platforms for our company. We also work on the web and stuff. And we spent hours upon hours, I don't know, years of our lives doing this. And part of that has been building our Facebook following and also our SEO scores. So search engine option optimization, so that when you type in germination or something on Google, the first thing that's going to come up is our germination website. But that might not happen in the future.
definitely. And just for some more background, according to the Pew Research Center, around 31% of adults are currently getting their news from Facebook alone, which will be huge going forward because now all of those adults, and young adults as well, will need to find a new news outlet to find their news at.
Yeah, and
Blogging,
that's where there's concerns about more misinformation spreading. So, I feel like we all know we have those grandparents or older parents, that older generation that isn't as tech savvy, but they've fallen in love with Facebook, and they'll share any news or any information they find that relates to them. And the worry is that we're going to get a lot more because they won't be able to share news information from reputable news sites. They're going to share from different fringe organizations that may not be telling the whole story. And we might see more misinformation out there on the web, targeting people that maybe don't know how to use a search engine correctly to be able to find some balanced information, or just may not take the time to go to the Globe and Mail or the CTV news site.
Totally. And this news block even impacts spreading news on things like natural disasters, like the recent Canadian wildfires, which Ashley can share a little bit more on how she was impacted by the news block there.
Well, I thankfully myself personally wasn't impacted. I'm located in Winnipeg, and besides having smoky skies, I am very safe. My heart goes out to those in Western Canada that are being extremely impacted by those right now. And as Becca said, in the last week, so as I said before, the news block happened on Facebook at the start of August, and we just saw a huge natural disaster happen in the last week with the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia, and then up in the Northwest Territories surrounding the city of Yellowknife, major fires, and because of that, there had to be very fast evacuations. And the police and the fire and the government sources can still post to Facebook and be like, "Hey, you need to get out of here," or stream their press conferences giving updates on the fire information. There's no news sources doing that anymore. So CTV can't film it. The local newspapers can't, and it's really reducing the amount of spots that people can get that information. Because if you think about it, if you're in a situation like this, it's better if you can just open up your Facebook feed, and even if you're seeing 5 outlets or 5 places stream the same press conference, it's making sure it's getting to you. And so there's been a lot of concerns that information isn't getting to people that need to see it. Thankfully, we haven't had people die and people were able to evacuate, but there's definitely been a lot of call-outs from the government for Facebook to end their block of Canadian news because of situations like this.
Totally. And that's super important. And while this Bill C-18 currently only impacts Canada, we could see ripple effects worldwide because the world is watching to see what does this bill bring. Do people like it? Is it working? And Australia even had a similar bill in place that ended up blocking news from readers as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've all discussed this. Basically, anyone in the news industry, I think this is something we all knew about. And myself, I do have some friends that are Australian journalists and work in Australia. And it was in 2021. Australia was the first to go about trying to get some compensation from the news publishers. And yeah, Facebook went in, like, I think it was a couple of weeks, they blocked their pages. I remember seeing friends of mine that live in Australia posting, like, go to our websites, you can't see anything. And at that time, the ABC, which is the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, their state funded media organization, was able to come to an agreement through the government and the and the social media companies, and they reached an agreement, and there is money flowing, but there's not a lot of transparency around how much money is flowing. I know people that work in the news industry there that are like, that just say that they're like, I don't know what kind of money is coming to our organization. They have no idea. There's no transparency. And earlier this summer, and this is something that Beck and I have talked about a lot, I actually had the chance to sit in on a session where we listened to a Canadian lawyer, talk about the impacts of Bill C-18 and kind of give an overview. And he talked about the Australian case study. And this lawyer is Michael Geist. I'm sure if you're in Canada, you've seen him getting quoted a million times in every news story you can think of about what the impact will be and what it is. But he talked about the Australian situation, and he said that their bill had a lot more wiggle room around it. And Canada's made ours pretty ironclad. And he thinks, well, Meta probably is a lost cause. There could be some wiggle room with Google to reach a deal.
Right. So we don't know what the effects will be worldwide. There's a lot of uncertainty around what this bill will bring, and if we could potentially see it happening here in the US or in the EU as well.
Definitely. It's everyone sitting around watching. It's a as I said before, it's a game of chicken right now. we're seeing Canada, which isn't always a world leader in some of the stuff. Like we're usually everyone's best friend. We get along with everyone, let's say, and we're there to support you and stuff. So you don't always see Canada taking a leading role and stuff like this, but it's definitely it's gonna impact what happens here is going to impact not just us here in Canada. It's going to impact how we address news and compensation for news everywhere around the world, probably.
Definitely. And while Meta and Google's decision means that you may stop seeing our content on your Facebook feed if you are based in Canada, or in the future you may have trouble searching it through Google, it doesn't mean that our stories and posts have disappeared. You'll still be able to find all of our content and updates from SeedWorld Group properties by visiting our website homepages directly and through our newsletters. You will also be able to find us on our LinkedIn and X, previously Twitter, social media pages.
Mm-hmm. And Becca, you are our digital content producer and manager of digital content here at Seed World Group. So for you, this you're someone that sits around and like pulls our analytics every month and everything. So I know we're not yet at the end of August, but what do you think you're going to see when we get down to actually looking at the details now that this is the first month we've seen an impact from this on our socials?
Yeah, totally. I think August will be a really interesting month because so far only one of our accounts has been impacted. So I'll be able to use the numbers from our other Canadian platforms to sort of directly see, is the news blocking causing a decrease in numbers, which is what I am anticipating at the end of the month. Because people aren't going to like a blank post or a post that just has a caption and then says that they can't access the link. People aren't going to click to the link because they're not able to click. So automatically, we're going to see reduced numbers. How much? I'm not sure. And then going one step further, are we going to see a reduction directly on our website? Probably, because it being able to click the links on Facebook makes it very accessible to many more readers than typing in the full link. So I'm also curious to see some exact numbers, but I am expecting a bit of decrease in readership for sure.
And yeah, maybe for people that aren't or American listeners or European listeners that haven't experienced this directly themselves, for us in Canada, when we log on to Facebook now and we go to, let's say, the Globe and Mail, which is one of our largest national daily newspapers, if we click on that account, it just is blank. Like you see the name Globe and Mail across the top, but there's nothing there anymore. There's no information saying what the account is or anything. It's just saying that due to Canadian legislation, this account is blocked. And it's really sad to see that. And then for some other maybe smaller medias, companies such as ourselves, when we did see one of our publications, our potato news industry focused publication, SpudSmart, blocked for a bit, although we're back up online. We don't know why we're allowed on Facebook again, but we were blocked for about 2 weeks. And while our account, you could log on and see like the page and see all of our information. Whenever you go to a post that we had posted a link to one of our news stories in, it would just say like where the link was. It'd be like, this is no longer available due to Canadian legislation, but you could still see like what we had wrote in the post. So let's say I had posted a crop update for Prince Edward Island potatoes. You could see that it was like, crops are looking good this week in Prince Edward Island, but then when you go to click on the story, it wouldn't exist. So that's why we're really sitting here scratching our heads, not knowing what's going on. We don't know how this is going to impact us, and it's a scary thing. And I think it's a scary thing for everyone if you're anyone that consumes news, which should be everyone.
Definitely. There's so much uncertainty. And, you know, you can obviously view, or you could during those 2 week periods from the US view Spud without issue.
Mhm.
But I guess really the best way to ensure that you are getting the updates that you want to see is to sign up for those daily newsletters from your news outlets and make sure that you're visiting their web pages and our web pages daily to make sure that if there's a story that you're interested in, you're able to see it and get the news that you need.
Maybe we'll see a switch back to I know when I was growing up as a kid, we all would watch the 6 o'clock news together. And then that's definitely gone out of the way, is all we all one have like a million different streaming services, so we don't actually have our 6 p.m. newscast anymore. But I know that was like a family thing growing up, and that my parents, after I would go to bed, they'd watch like the evening news at like 11 o'clock. So I guess we might have to make a switch back in Canada and being able to be like, okay, I got to sit down and read the newspaper every day, which could be good, but I hope if it does go through, we do not have Facebook News. I would encourage you to get your newspaper subscription and read that every day, or make it a family affair and sit down and watch the 6 p.m. news every night.
Definitely. And as always, Seed World Group will continue to bring you independent breaking news and insightful stories from across Canada, the US, and around the world. Access to journalism is a pillar of any healthy democracy, and we will continue to be here for our readers.
Well, thanks, Becca, for yeah, I'm happy we were able to get on here and talk about this. I'm not happy that we had to talk about this, but I'm really happy we were able to address our readers, and hopefully we can hopefully we will no matter what, we're always here for you, I said, and whether that's on Facebook or not, or on Google, we are here for you.
Definitely. And Ashley, thank you again for chatting with me today and bringing in some of that Canadian insight to share with our viewers. Next week, you can tune in when Ashley brings on experts to discuss the politics of seed treatments. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today, and have a great week.